All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Thank you for joining us. Today is our volunteer town hall open forum. This is a follow-up from Tuesday night's town hall. So today we're going to highlight some of the critical tools and resources again. If you weren't on the town hall, this is good information for you to know. And then we'll actually go over some of the questions and answers that came from the town hall. The last town hall, and then we'll open up the floor, and hopefully you can ask any questions you want to any of the team members. So, sorry, I did not have my coffee today. Anyways, Heather, next slide, please. So with me today, I have Jackie Gianarte, our Executive Vice President, Heather Robinette, our Fraternity Manager of Communication, and Elisa Goldstein, our Fraternity Manager of Operations. And my name is Tom Strand, the Fraternity President. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to you, Jackie.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, team. Thank you for joining us this Saturday, like Thomas said. So really quickly, this year we're going to have minimum expectations instead of minimum standards. When we all got together, the student services team, they were really deciding what are the three main focuses that we need for this year, especially as everything has gone virtually, but also to support our chapters during this time with COVID. And the main three topics were recruit, retain, and engage. So really quickly under recruit, we have complete 2 recruitments, virtually or hybrid in an academic year. One must be in the first term of the year. I would like to say and emphasize for this one, please make sure you are following whatever university or college policies that they might have for the year on any rules that they have for recruitment, of if it's in person or hybrid, that you're following the university policies. Next, of course, we must follow the Bridge to Brotherhood program with all new potential new members. Under Engage, we have complete virtual chapter events with 50% of members in attendance per term. The way that we're going to be monitoring this is virtual chapter events. The chapter is going to be able to upload them into the MyAKPsi community. They are going to create their own events. The chapter members could then register for the event. Once they log in for the event, that's how it's being tracked. So it's tracked on our back end as well, as we get to see their progress and their growth within AKPsi. It gets our members to really utilize the MyAKPsi community and know how to use it. Again, this doesn't have to be for every chapter meeting, but just any event that they might be completing for the chapter. Have at least 10% of chapter members, or a minimum of 3 of the chapter is under 30 members, in attendance at fraternity-wide virtual sessions. Fraternity-wide virtual sessions could be anything from town halls, Berkman assessments, if once we have like the deep dive into it, keynote speakers, alumni orientations, any rituals that we might do organization-wide. Again, so 10% of chapter members or a minimum of 3 in attendance at fraternity-wide virtual events. Under retain, at least have 4 out of the 7 officers complete their learning plans. Again, these are the 7 officers that are officially in our documents, which is Secretary, Treasurer, MOR, VPN, VPAR, VP Admin, and President, or the equivalent name to that position. I know most of our chapters don't have a secretary anymore, so the equivalent name to that position, so 4 out of those 7 to please complete that. And of course, last but not least, meet your chapter year-end goal that you completed in the chapter success plan. The main thing we really want volunteers to focus on this year when going over minimum expectations with your chapters is more of that conversation, that dialogue that you're having with them. Specifically, the 3 questions I always like to utilize when having those conversations with our chapters. It's like, what's working, what's really going well for them, where are they getting stuck? So maybe what type of resources they might need, where do they need our support, how could we help them out, and what might they do differently? So maybe recruitment didn't work the first time around, what could they do differently for next semester? So really getting them into that thought process and really guiding that conversation with them, as we are there to advise and guide them throughout their collegiate experience. So really quickly, that was all for minimum expectations. Again, everything could be also found on MyAKPsi Community. Your Alyssa's going to be going over this a lot, but you're going to see that our virtual operations manual is your go-to place. That is like our key phrase for the weekend and for the day. And now I'm going to pass it over to Alyssa.
Thanks, Jackie. So as we spoke about on Tuesday, there are a number of resources now available in the MyAKPsi community to assist both student chapters and volunteers with virtual operations, recruitment, bridge to brotherhood, and managing deliverables. So I just wanted to highlight the virtual chapter operations guide, as we just mentioned today. So this is your go-to or your one-stop shop for everything going on, particularly this semester. It lives within the knowledge base section of the MyAKPsi community, which Heather will walk us through next. And it was also sent out via email from Steve in about mid-August, and it's posted in the various community groups. For example, the AKPsi volunteer group. As always, any of these guides can also be found using the search function in the community. So shown on this slide is the table of contents. The virtual chapter operations guide includes fraternity-wide information, so that includes the fraternity's outlook on coronavirus, the minimum expectations that Jackie just covered, communication and events, as well as chapter-specific information. So that's how-tos on hosting chapter meetings, financial planning, recruitment, and the bridge to brotherhood. Many of the resources in this document are links to other documents and sections within the MyAKPsi community. That includes other guides like the Guide to Virtual Recruitment and Guide to Virtual Bridge to Brotherhood that I went over on Tuesday night, but also is linked here, as well as video recordings from officer town halls, e-learnings, webinars, and chapter programming examples. One of the great perks of this guide is that it is going to be a living and breathing document because it's in the MyAKPsi community. So it will be updated weekly by the student services team based on chapter and volunteer feedback about what they're seeing in their chapters and campuses. And now I will pass it over to Heather to cover the community.
Thank you very much. Awesome. So yeah, so we're going to hop into the community real quick. So if you check out the webinar or the town hall from Tuesday, you could see the full walkthrough of the community, but we're going to focus on the learning plans that are now available. So we'll take a look at that and how you can access them, as well as in Volunteer Central. If you have not done so already, we ask that by Monday you go in and hit recommitting. Just to let us know that for the next year, you're still planning to continue with your role. So let me switch my screen over real quick. Okay, so once you log into the community, you will see the homepage. And just real quickly, as Alyssa mentioned, if you type in virtual up here, all the virtual resources are going to come up, just so you know how to quickly find those. But we're going to go ahead and jump in real quick. So if you click over on MyAKPsi and go to My Journey, it's going to bring you to this page. And so as mentioned before, all the officer learning plans are in here. But if you actually click on Volunteer Development, it will take you to where you can see the Chapter Advisor and Section Director one. Right now, you should be able to access those. And then later next week, you will actually be assigned to that learning plan. But for now, if you want to go in and get a jump start, check yours out, feel free to. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Chapter Advisor one. So as you can see here, it does say the duration is 53 hours. Keep in mind, this is for the entire year, and these are just conservative numbers. So don't be too worried about that. As you can see, it is broken down by month. So we are going to just jump into one of them. So as you can see here, you can see the list of all the different items for August here. They do have time estimates. But that said, if we jump into review recruitment plan, which I believe has 30 minutes estimated, honestly, if you read through this, really just taking a look at their recruitment plan. If you're already aware of what they're doing, things like that, honestly, you'll just hit the completed. So I've already hit completed, but I hit undo real quick. It'll have a little completed button, and then you'll be able to get that checked off. Oh, sorry, it says done. So yeah, you'll be able to get that checked off, and then you'll be able to continue to move on through. The other thing I want to highlight is if you click Volunteer Central, this is what it's going to look like. So I've obviously had several positions over the years, but whatever position you have held or are holding will show up here, and then it'll show you the end dates. So you should have ones that'll say 8/31/2020. So these are the ones that you'll need to hit either recommitting or not recommitting. They should be actual buttons that you'll need to go in and click. I've already clicked mine, which is why they are grayed out. Yeah, so that's just a quick summary of that, and I will go back to the presentation real quick, and we will pass it over to Thomas to review the town hall Q&A from Tuesday.
Thank you, Heather. So yeah, we went through some of the critical things that we wanted to, again, remind and share to our volunteers. For the full presentation, please watch the presentation link that was sent out from Tuesday's night's town hall. So here are the 3 questions that came from the town hall. Will students need to use the MyAKPsi Community to track attendance? So in the next week, I won't say next week, coming out soon, students will have the ability to create events in the MyAKPsi Community. So they can create those events and use it from a local perspective, or they can use those events and open it up to other chapters and invite other chapters to do that. So the request is, if chapters are doing events locally, this is an easy way for them to use the MyAKPsi Community to track their attendance. They can do that via their mobile app. And then also the importance of doing these, it creates a history of the attendance, the events they've attended to. So that will be rolling out in the next couple, it's rolling out pretty soon. We're still in the testing phases of that, but we hope that students are able to use this new feature. You may have seen it with TBLI and things like that. I know the regions and the areas are starting to use MyAKPsi for creating their own area types events. So that feature will be available soon, and that will come with how-to guides. But yeah, it's another tool that was provided to our students so that they can track their attendance, but also check in as well. Will the monthly plans be available for section directors too? Yes. So they will be available for chapter advisors, section directors, and regional directors. Like Heather mentioned, if you haven't started the plans, they will be auto assigned to you in the next week once we finish the remaining items. And then the last question that came out was for regions that don't currently have RD support, when do we expect them to be filled? So at this point, the board directors are doing a organization analysis to kind of understand. So with all the technology changes, with the current environment, what can we do? What updates can we do to our organization so that we can better support our members? So they are doing so as a result of that, they've asked us to put a hold on the RD appointments. The goal is to have task forces are reviewing that in the next 30 days, and we will review that at the October board director meeting. So based on that outcome, we will kind of understand what we would do, how we would move forward with the RD appointments. But regardless if regions have RDs or not, their main support, if there's no RDs, will be the VPs. Just like chapter advisors, just like chapters that don't have chapter advisors, their main point is SDs. If there's no SDs, they can move up to RD to the VP. If no VP, they go to Jackie and myself. So we have a big chain of command that's built in place to support all our volunteers for their chapters. In addition, we collaborate with the fraternity staff and the CRCs who support the chapters on a day-to-day basis as well. So those were the 3 main questions that came out of that. With that being said, let's go ahead and open up the floor and see if anyone has questions about the role, about any of the programs that's coming down, the financial operations, things like that.
Yeah, Thomas, this is Dave Urita. So, I'm fairly new in terms of being a chapter advisor. And I know that we have CAB members, but I don't know what their roles are and how they should be interacting with the chapter or just directly through the chapter advisor.
So CAB members is your team at the local level. So it's understanding what your chapter needs are. Are they struggling in finances? Are they struggling in professional programming? So it's identifying those volunteers to help them from that perspective. So it's really allowing you to delegate some of the resources and building those teams that you see fit for that chapter.
And whose responsibility is it to recruit those chapter advisors or the board members?
The chapter advisor, you. If you need help in certain areas or certain things, obviously you can reach out to your SDs and RDs for recommendations of volunteers, and we can help you from there. In addition, you can reach out to your regional director or VP, and we can get you a list of all the alumni in that area as well. And you can say, hey, my chapter needs help in fundraising. My chapter needs help in professional development. Is anyone interested in helping? So.
All right, thanks.
Eric, I saw that you had a question in the chat that we mentioned on Tuesday's call, that we know AKPsi isn't going to be the priority for students. What is a reasonable expectation for student participation? That's why we came up with the minimum expectations this year instead of minimum standards. So the minimum expectations that we are expecting from them is that 10% at fraternity-wide events, or 3 if it's under 30, and 50% of them to join virtual events that their chapter is putting on together. That is what the minimum expectations that we have for our students at the moment.
What's the difference between expectations and standards? So expectations, so in the past, the word standard has kind of created fear. It's like, if I don't do this, I get punished. So we focus on the word expectation and say, look, we know the future. We don't know what the future looks like. We don't know what your school is going to look like. We don't know the level of stress that you may be going under as a student and as a member of AKPsi. So the level of expectation is saying, hey, this is what we're expecting you to do it, but if you can't do it, you're not going to get penalized for it. We're not, because that's the fear with the word standard. So we kind of change terminology and try to be accommodating to our chapters as they kind of face their own struggles as they go into this new school year. Does that answer your question, Eric?
As far as what happens if they don't meet the expectations, currently that's what the chapter advisors, regional directors, section directors, our resource coordinators are there to have those conversations with the chapters. We don't want to say this is exactly what's going to happen because we don't know the environment or what's going on for that chapter or for that student at that moment. So we want to be able to have those conversations with them before saying, like in the past with our standards, if you do not miss this, you get put on all these different panels. You might be, having conversations with your regional director every month on certain things. We want to make sure that it's an open environment for them to have those conversations with us and that they feel okay to let us know, hey, this is what's going on in our schools right now, in our chapters.
Go ahead, Craig.
Okay, sorry, I noticed you turned my audio on. So I had a few things. I think one was already answered in the chat about the FAC President's Academy, so I saw that. Are we going to be required to use that attendance thing? Because my chapter has a very good attendance credit thing with QR codes and things of that nature. I mean, if we're pretty much doing what we've been doing, we're okay. There's no changes for that. And then the second thing, I saw there were something additional on Tuesday about what the officers will have to do. And so I didn't know, did the virtual town halls cover that, or is there something in addition to, if they attended a virtual town hall, is there something in additional to that they have to do as well?
For the officers, the additional is just like Heather walked us through the learning plans for like the CAs and the section directors. Each officer also has their learning plan on there as well.
So it's an addition to what was covered at the virtual town hall.
Right, is them going through their learning plans, their learning tracks. Oh, Heather's gonna pull us up. Oh, she's amazing. I love her for this. So it's going through that you see there, their learning plans. Like the treasurer has one of 38 hours. Again, those are estimates. A lot of them are a lot quicker than that, and it's broken down monthly as well. But like the positions are all on there on the MyAKPsi community.
And in regards to the events tool, I mean, we're not requiring all the chapters to do it, but the idea is by using it, we were able to track their history of the events they attended. So it becomes almost a professional development history of all the events they've gone as a brother for a lifetime. So we can track that, and then also will help when we look into building the principal business leadership certificate, which has certain skills that they need to go through, soft skills they need to go through as well. So we're not requiring them to use it. It is a tool that was created for them, and it allows us, when I say track, not us to track, but allows them to develop a history of the things they've gone to. Just like when you go to PBI and you check into certain events, we track all that information because that shows, hey, you know, Craig, you went to these events. These are soft skills that you learned.
Thomas, Jacob has a great question that I think if we can give a brief overview of Brotherhood Unbounded and what's to come for some of the professional development events and stuff that we have planned for our students this upcoming year.
Yep. So this year we are going to be implementing the Berkman survey. So if you attended the President's Academy and FAC in Phoenix this past January, we got great reviews of the Berkman survey. So, and students kept asking us, hey, can we do this at the local level? So we are doing that. So the Berkman survey is a personality test that's mainly used in Fortune 500 companies, C-level exec. So they offer 100 different types of reports. And one of the reports that we used was about dealing with stress and what personalities, what these personality types, how to manage against those stress, but also identify that their peers. Because sometimes something that you do might be stressing someone out and they might be reacting differently. And if you understand that, you can kind of counteract and then kind of reduce that stress level. So it's a great survey and presentation. We're offering that to our students for free. And in addition, we are going to be training a team of facilitators that allow the facilitators to present at the local level. Because presentation is great. I mean, the survey is great. The other piece of the survey and the reports is actually the presentation of the material.
Yeah, I love.
And then in addition,
sorry, go Thomas.
In addition, we are going to be doing monthly keynotes with AKPsi alumni, execs, and things like that. So, for example, next Wednesday, we have negotiating your next Tuesday. Oh, sorry, 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks. In 2 weeks from now, we have one for negotiating your first compensation package. So we'll have those kind of level of events on a monthly basis. In addition, because PBI will go virtual, we are developing a virtual version of PBI that will be open up to all our members for free if they pay their dues, as another way to kind of continue the development in the virtual world. So those are the big programs that we're going to be launching in the next couple of weeks.
The next question that came through to the chat, I'm actually going to open up this one. We have a lot of volunteers on this call, which is what I love town halls for. We have some RDs. If a chapter has some members who never show up for events, causing the same people showing up, what can we do to make sure we are getting those members to step up for the chapter since it is virtual? I would like to open that up of what you guys have seen maybe some of your chapters do to help that or to help drive that virtual engagement. If anybody has any recommendations or what they've seen, I would say, unmute yourself, and if you want to help answer this question, because I think it's great that we can all collaborate on here and share our ideas or what our chapters have been doing. Nope. I know what I've seen, some chapters that I've spoken to, especially from the Atlantic Gulf Coast region, especially in the virtual environment, is really knowing and checking where each individual is. So what time are they doing the events? What type of events that they're doing? Because, you don't want to go into this Zoom overload. If they're doing classes online, if they're doing all this other stuff, they maybe not want that other event at the moment, especially at the start of the semester. So definitely surveying or polling your members is a great way to start. Those one-on-one conversations as well, just to check in on them. A lot of times when brothers don't show up or stop showing up, to me, that's a red flag to have that check-in conversation, just to say, hey, is everything okay with you? Is there anything that I can support you with? They might be going through a lot at the moment that they just need that one-on-one conversation. A lot of chapters for the start, what I've heard, like I was on 2 different calls last week with different chapters. Their first few events are strictly fun, just to have fun with their members, just to start that engagement or getting to know each other, because they're starting up their classes. They're getting used to that virtual environment for this semester. So how do they have different game nights, different things, just to bring people back in to start working together and collaborating before they dive a little deeper into other content?
I have one small thing that we did that might help. I've already realized we've already had one brother meeting, but I will say, full disclosure, I am coming from probably one of the largest chapters, so I have like 150, 180 members. So whatever we do obviously may not apply to everyone, but since everything is virtual, they're obviously using a lot of stuff in person. So one thing that my exec decided to do, which I think is a good thing, because it kind of gave me a break a little bit too, is typically most chapters, I think, I don't know, I would assume probably meet every week. I don't know if some already meet every other week. So we're going to every other week because since there aren't as many events, because about almost everything that we normally do, formal retreat, other things like that, have been cut now. So there isn't as much to talk about. So they are doing less meetings. And so I think the one meeting less every other week, I think is going to help. I think that was very positively received, at least by my students. I felt like that they're not going to have as much time that they're going to have to commit because their brother meetings are only every other week versus pretty much every week.
I love that, Craig. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, Craig is the chapter advisor over at Tennessee, one of our largest chapters, or largest chapter right now. And I just have to shout out and applause for Craig because he's also been an amazing chapter advisor for what, you're going on your 15th year now? Or something as a chapter advisor. So thank you, Craig. Thank you for that.
I'm starting year 16.
There you go, 16. So
a question from Eric in regards to the involvement for volunteer involvement. I mean, my take is it doesn't change because we are virtual. I think how you were involved prior to that should same involvement. And it's also doing a touch point with the chapter and see how involved they want you to be. So, it's really identifying their expectations and whatnot. So you can attend their chapter once a term, once a month, however you think you and your chapter agree makes sense. I know every chapter advisor does their work with their chapters very differently, and because chapters have very different expectations. So there's no set standard or expectations that we have in that role. It's open to the collaboration between you and your chapter. One thing I want to note as well from the Zoom overload, we can also use our phones and just call or do a conference call and just talk. I know we were doing that way before Zoom came to play. but we just went from phone calls all to Zoom calls. So that's something to consider as well, so that we don't get lost in this whole the Zoom fatigue. So yeah. Let's see. But Jace, thank you for answering those questions in regards to the events and the call for volunteers for the Brooklyn Educations. Are there any other questions?
Thomas, it looks like, I don't think this question has been answered, but will volunteers also be able to attend the virtual PBLI Institute of Business Leadership?
No, absolutely not. Yes, volunteers and students is open to all that, including all our virtual keynotes as well. So like the negotiating your compensation package. Who knows what you're going to learn from that, but it's open to all our volunteers. So
yeah. With that, don't forget then to go in and mark yourself and recommit so that we know you're an active volunteer. Because the majority of chapters are virtual for the fall term, what are we looking at for volunteer involvement? What is the line defining to involved? Attending chapter once a term, month, etc. I think that's a great question, and I think that's also up to one and the ability how much you can provide for that chapter and that conversation with your regional director as well for expectations. I know that depending on line of works, there's some month that sometimes you can give a little bit more than others. Like I know that if you're an accountant, like, you know, during tax season, there's that month that you're probably pulling back a little bit compared to other months that you're able to give a little bit more. So I think that's something for you to gauge and for you to gauge with your chapter as well. Maybe they need your support a little bit more now during recruitment, or maybe towards the end of the year when it comes to their rituals. So gauging that with your chapter as well and having those conversations through the chapter success plans, where are the events, where they need you specifically more. I think it's a great start on to defining how much time you're going to be able to give to your chapter, not just this semester, any semester, anytime if it's virtual or not. I think those are great dialogues between you, your chapter, and then of course your regional director as well.
Can you guys hear me? Just testing the audio. Okay. I had a question about the CSP, and the chapter submitted it. It's been reviewed, but I haven't gotten any feedback on, like, was it approved or anything like that. Is that still due, or has that gone out and I just missed an email or notification? I might not have audio.
They are still due. So I was looking for Melinda. Melinda,
yeah, I forget. I'm trying to think what Alec put out there. I think she put out emails that if it was submitted and the chapter got feedback, you know, then they should have incorporated it. I'm sorry.
So it would have gone to the chapter officers, not necessarily the chapter advisors.
I think so. Alec Moran handles that, but I can follow up with her. Drew, what chapter you work with?
The Eta Omicron at ECU, or East Carolina University.
Okay. I'll get back to you on
okay.
Monday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew, I will say, I think my chapter got recommendations, and I didn't get those. Like I think I heard the grapevine that they had some changes to make. So I never got an email saying, hey, these are the changes you need to make. So, or if I was, I might have been CC'd, but I might have missed that. So don't feel bad.
All right, Cole, you had a question?
Yeah.
No.
So my chapter is pretty zoomed out of their mind as well. So much to the extent that they perhaps exercise some not very good judgment on their way back to the start of school. And I've got a significant amount of them either isolated or quarantined. So I pretty much shut them down for a couple of weeks and told them they needed to knock it off, because they're not going to be, my chapter's not going to be the reason why this university has to go home. So I've pretty much put them in time out for the time being. So we have discussed we used to have very long pledge education programs, probably from the longest allowed, which I think is about 9 weeks. We're thinking about accelerating that and really just focusing on the core this semester instead of all the other stuff that we would do. So we're thinking about shrinking that down to a 5-week program. And instead of having a recruitment week, we're going to have a recruitment month, because we can't recruit right now anyways, because I'm not allowing them to go anywhere. In fact, they can't even go to class. So, I just explained to them, this is America. You are free to choose, but you're not free from the consequences of your choice. And you made a choice, and there are consequences. So it's they're learning some things the hard way right now, which I suppose that's better than the alternative. We always kind of think of this college thing as a place to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes when the consequences are a tad bit less severe. So I just wondered if anybody had any thoughts on that idea of kind of extending out recruitment, and just looking at that in a little bit different way, I guess. And in fact, social and fraternity, social sorority and fraternities at the university were basically shut down too, in terms of their recruitment. So they're not really even doing it this semester because they can't. They got in trouble. So that's what we're struggling with here at Fort Hays.
No, I love that. And then, like, you see the comments, like you have other volunteers loving the timeout and everything. One, I think it's the right thing to do. Always follow what the school says. So if Fort Hays, says this is what you should be doing, follow that. One advice I always give to chapters as well, even though we don't fall under the social Greeks, whatever rules or policies they put there, just keep a close eye on them, because they can't tell the difference between our Greek letters and other Greek letters. So I always say, try to keep a close eye on what they're doing, because we don't want to be like, why do those Greek letters get to do this, but these Greek letters can't do that? So keep a close eye, because we don't want to end up, like you said, on media or getting shouted out because, hey, look at this organization doing that while they're not supposed to, when in reality, we were able to. The 5-week program, that is, one of the minimums that we have is 5 weeks. We can take down our pledge program all the way down to 5 weeks. And I think that's a great opportunity for you with your resource coordinator to maybe go back and resubmit that if it was already submitted for longer. Like, hey, we need to resubmit because we need to bring it back down to 5 weeks, and just give yourself another starting point. As far as recruitment for a month, if that's something that the chapter feels that they can do and they could handle, that would be great. Just make sure that whoever you reached out to on week number 1, how do we keep them engaged by week number 4 of that recruitment process? Because usually people want that quick turnaround, like, hey, I got this information on Monday. How do I join next Monday? Versus I got this information on Monday. Now I have to wait 30 days. How do we keep that communication with those individuals that showed interest throughout the month? That's my personal recommendations from what I've seen or what I've done in the past. And I know that Eric even mentioned that. I don't know if Eric wants to, get off the mic for a second, that, his chapters, and a lot of them are quarter schools, a lot of them do 5-week pledge programs, and it's worked really well for them. So I don't know if he has any advice that he would want to share either off mic or maybe connect with you one-on-one.
Okay, and essentially that's what we had to do last spring, because when the university announced that it was closing, and we weren't going to be able to do our initiation and all that, we kind of accelerated the pledge education program so that we could get them through that part and get them at least initiated in chapter spot and everything, although we haven't actually done the ritual yet. So, and we were planning to do that ritual the first week back, and we had a room, and it was going to be socially distanced, and obviously no hand grips or secret passwords through the year, but I canceled it. So, because they did not behave.
I mean, I personally applaud you and say good call on that. We want to make sure that we protect our students. Like, yes, we want to protect our organization and our universities, but I want to protect our students more than anything. So I think that was a good call. And again, if we might fall under organizations, but if the university is telling, hey, your social Greeks don't do rituals for X, Y, and Z reasons, I would suggest do the same thing, because it could turn into, why do they get to do rituals and we can't?
Right.
Because we fall under different buckets. So just that's for everybody, keep a eye out or ear out on what's going on with your social Greeks around. If you're a chapter with a house, the same thing. What are they telling those chapters with houses, those universities? What are their rules, so that AKPsi follows the same rules?
Okay.
Oh, Amy, so I actually had this discussion with a chapter. Yes, they can't present their recruitment video in front of a big lecture hall. What I've actually done is that the recruitment videos, a lot of schools, if you email the professor, you can still ask for those 2 or 3 minutes right before class starts. Like, hey, do you mind if I present a recruitment video or talk for 2 or 3 minutes right before class starts? I've heard from a lot of chapters. I've spoken to chapters from Florida up the East Coast that are just asking their professors virtually. This is the same way you would ask, hey, could I speak 2 minutes before your class? Could I speak 2 minutes before your virtual class at this moment? The other thing that Thomas has been so gracious and helpful with Melinda's ask for his video, we're also coming up with a recruitment video from AKPsi. So some of our smaller chapters, or that might not have the bandwidth right now to create some recruitment videos, we're also creating a generic recruitment video that we can share out so that our students and our chapters could use.
One note I wanted to make is in regards to the pledging program. Remember, the minimum is 5 weeks, and the core of the program are just the education modules and the midterm interview and the court of honor. Anything beyond that is extra and nice. And with everything that's going on, especially in the virtual world, I think we should just focus the chapters in those, get those done and out of the way, and get them as numbers, and then they can kind of start integrating with their chapters virtually that way and a lot quicker.
Right. Yeah, we're really focusing on the core and kind of skipping some of those elective type things and some of the other service events and stuff we used to do, and hoping to fill that gap next year. Our goal is really just to sustain so that we've got a solid foundation for next year. And the other thing I wanted to mention, our chapter is particularly thankful for some of the more fraternity-wide events that they can participate in, so that they don't have to plan them themselves. We're a small school in a small town, and so our alumni base locally isn't huge. So when we plan for speakers and professional events and other types of things, it's harder, and it takes a lot of time to do that, and they're burned out, and the semester hasn't even started. It has. We're 2 weeks in, but it feels like a month or two. So it's just crazy how different this is. So being them to be able to participate in some other events that they don't have to plan is taking some stress off of our chapter particularly. So hopefully in 14 days they'll be back in full swing with antibodies, right? But they still have to stay away from me because I ain't getting sick.
So Cole, you brought up a good point. The Brotherhood Unbounded programs, so the virtual keynotes, the Institute of Business Leadership, which is our virtual PBI, the Berkman Survey, all those, the chapters can use those to supplement the programming. So technically, if they didn't want to come up with their own professional programming, they could just go utilize the fraternity-wide programs. And then in addition, with the MyAKPsi events, where chapters can create local events, our hope is that they will open up their events to other chapters. So there's a collaboration across chapters as well. So there are chapters that do have access to alumni or great presenters, so they can create that event in MyAKPsi, and then also share that across the fraternity. And then again, with alumni, I mean, there's no reason for alumni to be there. I mean, the likelihood of them saying yes to present in a virtual world is a lot higher than trying to go there on campus. So they should reach out to all their alumni, regardless of wherever location, say, hey, our chapter is interested in this. Would you be able to call in and do an event? So I think chapters are utilizing that to reconnect the alumni more so than ever.
Yeah, with the MyAKPsi community as well, like Thomas said, Brotherhood Unbounded. And of course, now it's even easier for them and at the reach of their fingertips. If they haven't downloaded it already, the app onto their phone, or if you haven't, I would suggest to please download it or tell your chapters to download it so that they can look up different events. Also, Heather this summer did a great job spearheading information or trying to get individuals to speak inside the community and how do they share events. So if we can continue to drive our chapters there, so when they're holding events, they can invite other chapters or help maybe some of the larger chapters, helping the smaller chapters, or smaller chapters just combining together and saying, hey, let's do this together. Like, you know, I have 15 brothers, you have 20 brothers. How do we work together and spread out the workload? That's a different thing. I know that in Central Florida, I spoke to 2 chapters already that even for their virtual rituals or their virtual pledge program, since they're smaller, they're just going to combine and link up and do it together to separate that workload amongst them as well. Because in this environment, nothing says I can't have this ritual or I can have this program with this, you know, school somewhere else. So that workload across them all could really be helpful in one, sustainability, and second, engagement. I know one of the questions I got was that how do we keep our pledges engaged or for them to see the bigger picture? And I'm like, they can see the bigger picture now more than ever virtually. Like, hey, you know, you became a pledge with a chapter maybe in New Jersey and one in Florida together. How great is that we were able to link up and do that together? So reaching out and the community, if we can get more of us in there to really start those conversations and that engagement, hopefully could bring more of that collaboration as well.
These are all great questions. What else can we answer for you?
Okay, so I have a question. So at UTSA, sorry about my laptop, guys, if it's making noise. So at UTSA, not only do we have, you know, the social Greeks, but we also have a competing business fraternity on campus. And I've been told that, you know, we've kind of, between us and that other fraternity, we flipped to where we had a lot of people versus now they have a lot of people. So how do we go about doing recruitment and making sure we get those, you know, those potentials when we are competing with another business fraternity?
So it's what does the chapter have to offer, right? To highlight what those offerings are, and then what's exclusive to the fraternity. So the Berkman survey that is done by C-level execs and big companies like Google and things like that, we're offering that survey for free to our members. And they can't get that anywhere else, from my understanding, from those other business organizations. The virtual keynotes, right? Being able to connect with executives, alumni, education series talking about compensation, those programs they can share and highlight. Our mobile app, right? So it's those things that other organizations don't have to offer, and we also reduce our dues. Did other organizations do that? So if it's a money thing, that's an easy win, right? It's really selling, you know, their presence on campus and what their opportunities are as an organization that they can focus on. And we provide those tools and resources that they can do that. And it's really understanding what they can do better on campus and as an organization in general too.
Are those events?
So
those events going to be recorded? One of the things I'm thinking about is like our chapter basically meets on Wednesday night. Exec board meets every Wednesday night. Full chapter meets every other Wednesday night. We might be doing every third this year, but getting the group together outside of Wednesday night is hard because their work schedules and things like that. Although many of them aren't even going to work right now. So are we going to be able to replay those?
Yes.
Okay.
They will all be recorded and then they'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you go to the YouTube channel, we did a virtual education series at the end of March and April with various different topics. So there's a playlist that they can use that to use to supplement some of the education things, because they're about 30, 45 minutes long with Q&A. So those are, you had anywhere from branding yourself on LinkedIn to starting your own company. And you got that perspective as a student. The students were presenting that, and we also have alumni present that too. So it was a good, there's a good couple sessions there that they could utilize on the AKPsi 1904 YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the YouTube channel, subscribed, so I get all those updates. So it's good to know that these things will be there as well. So sometimes we watch them as part of our meetings, because getting them to do it on their own time is a little bit more difficult than just getting them to do it together.
That's great. Any more questions? Going once. AKPsi 1904 is the channel, Craig. Going twice. All right, so again, thank you for taking some time out of your weekend to come and listen to us and share your feedback and ask questions. And just really thank you for your commitment to AKPsi. I know we're entering a lot into the unknown a lot, especially this semester. I appreciate your guidance with our students. As leaders of this organization and advisors to this organization, know that AKPsi, when COVID hit us, we were planning for a virtual fall. Even though students were like, oh yeah, we'll come back. This COVID thing was just, it's go away in 2 weeks. This is a trend, right? It didn't go away. But as an organization, we were planning for a virtual fall. We are now planning for a virtual spring. I know students believe that they're going back to school in this spring semester. The trends that we've been seeing from universities, that's not going to happen. So there might be pushback on, should we do virtual recruitment in the fall? Let's just wait until spring. Well, if they keep waiting, then they lose an opportunity to even try to come up with what a virtual recruitment look like. So for this semester, they should try to do virtual recruitment, see what that looks like, what works and what doesn't work on campus. And then if they are on campus in the spring again, they already know how to do a virtual recruitment. Worst case scenario, they just market it AKPsi, right? And in addition, in regard to virtual pledging, recruitment sizes are going to be small. Chapters that used to get 20, 30 individuals might get 10. The road chapter in Washington normally get 20, but they tried virtual recruitment and they got 18. So those numbers will vary. And they might, some chapters, smaller chapters might get 1 or 2. And one of the considerations we are hearing chapters do is just pushing those off, giving the bids, but pushing the bids to the spring. Our recommendation is have the chapter talk to the individuals that gave bids out to, and ask them if they want to go through the pledging process. If they do, the chapter should honor that. In addition, those that are coming out to recruitment and accepting bids, those are probably the most motivated and ambitious people that you'll ever get, especially if you know how difficult a virtual environment is. So we should utilize that opportunity and continue the education process. Even if it's 1 or 2, it becomes a curated process. You get brothers involved, and you just focus on those 2 individuals. So just some things you consider, especially as advisors of this organization. Plan for the worst case. And the worst case is going to be a virtual spring. Don't let them push you back. And let them focus on long-term plan and just not just the fall semester. So what I've seen so far, I mean, chapters are doing virtual recruitment. Some of the ideas are great. So I'm excited for that. You know, we were nervous that there was going to be a lot of pushback, but they are jumping in and trying it. So we're very thankful for that. And just again, thank you for your guidance and your time and energy you put into our students. Because they need guidance. They need to look up to someone. So you guys are doing that. So we really appreciate everything you do as volunteers for this organization. As always, if there's anything that you need, any ideas that you have to make your position better or how we can support you, please reach out and let us know. We're here to help and we're here to listen and help you and accommodate you so that we continue to support our students through this. So thank you, everyone. Again, for your time and energy, and looking forward to hopefully our next town hall.